A very good evening to you all and welcome to the English News Bulletin. We trust you've had a fulfilling and restful day. Let's kick off the edition with the headlines. Slightly more than 77,000 Rwandans living in other countries across the globe have cast their votes ahead of other Rwandans here in the country in the year's general elections. People across the country are saying that they are prepared to cast their votes on Monday in Rwanda's first combined edition of the presidential and parliamentary elections. On the international scene, the U.S. Republican Party is expected to formally nominate Donald Trump for president this week after he survived an assassination attempt at a political rally on Saturday. My name is Olive Nete. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Welcome to the news in details. Slightly more than 77,000 Rwandans living in other countries across the globe have cast their votes ahead of other Rwandans here in the country in this year's general elections. Many of those who voted were doing so for the first time in their lives. Serge Nole kicks us off tonight.
A total of 77,138 Rwandans living in the diaspora had registered themselves to vote, and in different countries like Uganda and Kenya, long queues formed at polling stations, while further away around the globe excitement was expressed at the opportunity to have a say in determining Rwanda's next leaders.
It's a beautiful sunny morning in New Zealand right now, and I can't tell you how happy, excited, oh my gosh, I'm feeling all the feels to be the first person to be voting the Rwandan elections for president and parliament. Oh my gosh. The reason I'm so excited is because I know my voice matters. I know my voice will go far, far away in terms of getting my country development. What I want to say right now is our country has done so much better. There is so many development happening currently. There is like hospitals getting built right and left. There is a stadium just recently got built and celebrated. There is so many embassy opening globally. So for our next leader, I hope you will take our country up higher and higher for our people, for our nation, young generations, where they will see opportunities to make their contribution to their country. Here we go.
It was pretty straightforward, easy. You guys made it look well. Yeah, you have to, vote because, you have to give your voice, you have to, how can I say, have responsibility for your country, right? And it's within your rights. So, I encourage others to vote. I encourage others to, first do their research and everything, but also what other people believe. You have to, move with that perspective. And how else can I describe it? It's pretty big. Yes, I do get a vote for the first time. To me, it's, how would I say it? It's really, just a way to move forward, right? It's, you grow up and, you have more responsibilities, right? So, yeah, it's an encouraging thing, as someone, growing up and all of that.
Despite some minor challenges, voting at Rwanda's polling stations around the world went well, and there were no major problems that prevented people from casting their votes.
The electoral process has been going on since this morning, and the voter turnout was really very impressive, more than 98%, I believe. And what's more exciting is to see young people who are voting for the first time, and they came very early in the morning. And some of them waited to get the results. We are still counting. Even those that are considered to be not the first-timers are those who actually voted for the first time in 2017. So you can imagine they're still young. And this is because majority of our people here, the Rwandans living in China, are students at different levels. So generally we have young people, more than 99% are young. So they're so excited and we're happy that the process went well. The reports we are getting from the 7 polling stations that we have across China, the process went well. There was no any hiccup. The only challenge we had in few cities, people who missed their trains going to the polling stations, but because the directives provide for request for overextension, and we applied that to the National Electoral Commission to allow us to add 1 hour before we closed the polling stations, which was permitted, and they were able to arrive at the polling stations and they voted.
Preliminary results in Rwanda's presidential and parliamentary elections are to be announced only after votes have been cast in the country as well, with officials at the National Electoral Commission saying those results could become available as soon as Monday evening. As many as 16,000 Rwandan youths in the diaspora voted at 158 polling stations globally on Sunday.
Thank you, Serge. Now, people across the country are saying that they are prepared to cast their votes on Monday in Rwanda's first combined edition of the presidential and parliamentary elections. Take a look.
At the different polling stations countrywide we visited, it was evident that there was a lot of excitement in the air ahead of Monday's polls, with those in charge telling us that everything is ready. It is expected that the first voters will arrive at 6 a.m. and the National Electoral Commission will issue its directives with them present. The people are ready and so are we. So much so we have vehicles on standby to bring the elderly here to cast their votes and return them home, that is, those who are unable to come here on their own. If anything, we are just impatient for the time to come so that we can cast our votes. As you can see, our polling station is wonderfully decorated using features of our culture. We intend to vote for the person we believe has the best interests of the country at heart, and I believe that is the best way to show our support to great leaders. That is the booth in which the President of the Republic will be voted for, while that one will serve for the parliamentary elections. And you can see that the entire polling station has been properly arranged. Everything must be in place and properly arranged and orderly, and that applies to the site's officials as well. That is how people should find the polling station on voting day. The country has 2,433 polling sites, and top officials at the National Electoral Commission say that all of the volunteers in the elections are fully equipped and that voters should go to polling stations with everything they need to cast their votes. People should know at which sites they will cast their votes and have their ID cards with them, because we will need them to determine whether or not a person is on the voting list at a given site. Anyone without a national identity card can seek a temporary replacement document from the relevant authorities and use that instead. It doesn't matter when you lost your ID. If the authorities are able to determine who you are and that you are on the voters list at a given site, you will be able to cast your vote. Voters' lists indicate that there will be slightly more than 1.17 million voters in Kigali city, just over 2 million in the southern province, with a similar number in the west, close to 2.25 million in the east, and almost 1.5 million in the north.
Still on matters regarding elections, officials in the National Police have given assurances that security on Monday as Rwandans cast their votes will be just as good as it was during the campaign period. All members of the general public have also been urged to ensure that they maintain law and order while at voting sites. Serge Nore continues.
The people we spoke to about their expectations for the elections had this to say about how they expect things to be. We believe that the security level will be at 100%, based on how we saw things during the campaign period. How things went then is a good indication of what to expect on election day. Technically, we are already in the election period, though we here in Rwanda are to cast our votes tomorrow. There is no way there is insecurity, because security here in Rwanda is guaranteed. CLADO, the umbrella human rights organization here in Rwanda, agrees with that assessment. What we saw during the campaign period gave us a picture of what will be evident during the actual elections. We believe that people will not be persecuted in any way, and That belief is based on what we saw during the campaigning. Officials in the National Police have also given assurances that security on Monday as Rwandans cast their votes will be just as good as it was during the campaign period. All the members of the general public have been urged to ensure that they maintain law and order while at voting sites.
Twebwe dutegura umutekano, twateguye umutekano guhera igihe cyo kwiyamamaza.
Our security considerations cover the period from the start of the campaign through the day votes are cast here in Rwanda, the time when the final results will be announced, and even after that. On Friday, when there was just one day left of campaigning, we were already deploying personnel to polling sites across the country to protect them and their equipment. We do not wait until the time comes to do such things. Obviously, we also ask the general public to continue behaving properly, and as the National Police give assurances that all will go well, because we see no reason why it wouldn't during the elections. Rwanda has a total of 2,591 polling stations for these elections, 158 of them located in different countries around the world where members of the diaspora cast their votes.
Thank you, Serge. Now to health matters. Some residents in various places emphasize that infrastructures built during COVID-19 pandemic, such as hand washing stations, should not be neglected just because the pandemic has ended. Health institutions, on the other hand, advise people to continue preserving these infrastructures and to promote good hygiene practices and prevent other diseases caused by poor hygiene. Take a look. Some of the infrastructure built during COVID-19 has been completely destroyed. At Rurangazi Market in the Nyagisozi sector of Nyanza district, the hand washing stations used during the pandemic have been so badly damaged that residents report there is no water in the pipes. Besides markets, public hand washing stations were also built in schools, churches and bus parks. These infrastructures are no longer being used and have started to deteriorate. Some residents are concerned that diseases related to poor hygiene may increase as a result.
We greet each other, touch money and exchange it among ourselves, which can be a way of transmitting diseases.
It is something to be concerned about because it is important to wash hands and we need to do it more often. But now people don't do it, and you see this is a marketplace where a big number of people meet. Washing hands is very important, but the issue is that these hand washing stations established no longer have water. People emphasize the importance of hand washing in preventing diseases caused by poor hygiene, highlighting that these washing stations continue to be used even though COVID-19 is no longer a prominent issue. This is especially crucial because these infrastructures were funded through the national budget.
We want these infrastructures to continue being used as they were intended. For example, if I come from the toilet and want to go to a restaurant, having a hand washing station available would help me clean my hands before entering the restaurant. However, if there is no water in the hand washing station, I can continue with my activities without being concerned about it.
Julien Mahoro, Division Manager of the Rwanda Health Communication Center, emphasizes that people should not become complacent and stop practicing good hygiene. Consistent hygiene practices are essential for preventing diseases caused by poor hygiene.
Washing hands doesn't harm anyone. Instead, it prevents us from being harmed. We encourage people who have established hand washing stations to keep using them. We shouldn't wash our hands only when we are in public places. We should make it a habit even at home. Always wash your hands before eating, before feeding a baby, after using the toilet and so on. Washing hands should be a regular habit, not something we do just because there is a pandemic like COVID-19. Instead, we should cultivate the habit of washing our hands consistently.
Statistics from the Rwanda Biomedical Center indicate that 41% of Rwandans suffer from intestinal worms, with adults at the highest risk, reaching 48%. This underscores the low levels of hygiene in their daily routines. Rwanda has set a goal to eliminate intestinal worms and other neglected tropical diseases by 2030. According to the World Health Organization, poor hand washing contributes significantly to health issues, with 1.4 million people, including 400,000 children under 5, dying annually from diarrhea and respiratory infections. still watching our TV news now to Education Matters. According to a report by the British Council on Inclusive Education, Rwanda is recognized as a country that promotes inclusive education. However, there is still a need to increase the enrollment of students with disabilities in schools and to enhance the availability of tutors and infrastructure that supports their learning activities. We have more. Throughout the country, there are boys and girls who have previously dropped out of school and are now receiving support to re-enroll. Some of them cite reasons for their earlier dropout. The reason why I dropped out of school is because of poor financial capacity.
I dropped out of school due to conflicts in the family, and this includes repetitive fights, and also sometimes they would insult us.
However, in Rwanda, there remains a concern about the decreasing number of students with disabilities as they progress through different levels of education. According to the Ministry of Education figures, primary schools enroll 1.1% of children with disabilities, while in secondary schools, this drops to about 0.6%, and only 0.2% of children with disabilities continue to higher education. Kwizera Stratton is one of the 569 students with disabilities who took the national examination for primary school and expressed their satisfaction with the government's efforts to support their education.
I didn't know that we could also reach this high level and take exams in an accessible way, allowing us to participate in national exams as well.
In March 2024, the British Council published research on inclusive education titled Creating More Inclusive Schooling, covering various countries worldwide. Pauline Ingabire, in charge of Quality, Diversity and Inclusion Lead at the British Council Rwanda office, acknowledges significant achievements. She notes that Rwanda has made substantial strides, including constructing 69% of schools with adapted infrastructures accessible to learners with disabilities.
Over the years, we know that there have been different school building and different classrooms that have been built, particularly in Rwanda, includes like adaptable classrooms that support young learners with disability. We know that basic education in Rwanda is free, and if you also think about other programs that are supporting that, the school feeding program also supports the retention of the students that are already in school, so that promotes inclusion. If you also talk about the girls' education policy that the government of Rwanda has, that policy supports, like promote education of girls. If we take an example of someone who, with the teens pregnancy,
Muyizere Irene, in charge of education for people with hearing and speaking impairments at the Rwanda Basic Education Board, reports that there are 89 inclusive education institutions supporting 3,449 children in the country. He emphasizes that the approval of sign language dictionary in Rwanda is a significant step towards their goal of integrating sign language into school curricula.
It is a great step to have a dictionary of sign languages. Now we are advocating for sign language to be accepted and taught in schools here in Rwanda, similar to how Kiswahili and French are taught. This initiative would greatly benefit people with speaking and hearing impairments. For instance, if they need a service at a sector office, they would be able to communicate with staff who know sign language, ensuring they receive the service they need. This approach should also be implemented in other places, such as district administrations and hospitals.
Marie Mediatrice Isabiliza, a former deputy representing Rwanda in the Pan-African Parliament for 9 years and a member of the committee in charge of people with disabilities, confirms that significant progress has been made on the continent regarding the development of quality and inclusive education. She notes that 4 years ago, a law was established and approved by many countries, including Rwanda, to support this initiative. In the committee I was part of, there was a debate on the issue of parents who give birth to children with disabilities. It was evident that these parents are prone to poverty because of the extensive care they must provide. They often lack time to take care of their other children. Additionally, these parents have to find institutions that can care for their children with disabilities during the day so they can pick them up in the evening. In the report, Creating More Inclusive Schooling, conducted by the British Council, which examines inclusive education across different countries worldwide, it is estimated that 37% of students in low and middle income countries struggle with using or understanding the language in which they are taught. This language barrier hinders their learning process. Additionally, the report highlights that by 2030, 70% of 10-year-olds in low and middle income countries are projected to lack age-appropriate literacy skills, underscoring challenges in achieving educational milestones. And on behalf of the technical and news production team, thank you for being part of our broadcast today. Take care and goodbye.